All right, let's dive in. Today, we're tackling remote work versus return to office, and we're using this super interesting Hacker News discussion as our guide.
Sounds like a hot topic.
It is, and it gets pretty deep. It's not just about where do I sit? We're talking about money, family, even like what retirement means these days.
It really makes you think about the big picture, doesn't it? Like, what's the point of it all?
Exactly. Okay, so we've got this commenter, Jason420, who left a high-paying job, like one of those big tech giants.
Effie Ang?
Yes, exactly. And they took this fully remote role, but with a massive pay cut, like over 50%.
Wow, that's a big drop.
Huge. So clearly they're dedicated to this remote life.
It's a big trade-off, though, isn't it?
Oh.
Less money for retirement, but more time with the family now.
That's the debate, right? And the comments just exploded.
People had strong opinions.
Oh, yeah. Some were like, no way I could afford a 50% pay cut, especially in places like San Francisco or New York.
The cost of living is insane in those
I know.
areas.
Makes a huge difference. We had Typo Human pointing out how much cheaper housing is in Florida compared to California.
It's all relative, isn't it? What's
Yep.
a manageable pay cut for one person could be devastating for another.
True, true. But this got me thinking, it's not just about location. It's about this constant battle between time and money, you know?
Classic dilemma.
Right. And Insane Dreamer really nailed it with this comment. They said, given the choice between retiring when my kid is 20 and being home with them every day throughout their childhood, there's no contest.
Powerful statement. It challenges that whole idea of sacrificing now for some maybe future freedom.
And then what? Your kids are grown up and gone. You've missed all that time. Makes you think.
Right. Like, is it even retirement if you're just starting a new hustle or working even harder on your own projects? What's the point of all that money if you didn't live your life along the way?
And then we had Rack Off Sunshine, who wants to use their wealth to help others. Like, be that cool rich person who's always there to lend a hand.
That's a different way of looking at it.
Totally. And then there's Grochonaut, who's using their free time now to figure out what they actually want to do in retirement, like trying different things, really getting into that retirement mindset.
Smart. Retirement isn't just something that happens to you. You have to make it happen.
I love that perspective. So we've talked money, we've talked life goals, but there's this whole other side to this debate.
The social part of work, right?
Yeah. Orizal kicked it off, talking about how remote work lets people live all over the place, not just where the jobs are.
Freedom of choice.
Exactly. But then Wreck Off Sunshine, who, by the way, is a remote CEO, brought up some concerns.
Like what?
Well, they worry about security risks with remote teams, especially when you're outsourcing work, potential for fraud and stuff.
That's a valid point. You need good systems in place for that.
For sure. And Wreck Off Sunshine also talked about how awesome in-person brainstorming sessions are, that kind of spontaneous creativity.
Hard to replicate that remotely.
True, true. And then we had Spacey Willie, who said they made great friends at their old in-person job. Like, that environment really fostered those relationships.
It's different for everyone, isn't it? Some people thrive on those in-person interactions. Others find them draining.
Totally depends on your personality and the company culture, right?
Definitely. Even remote companies can be amazing at building community if they make the effort.
But let's be real, some people are pushing for return to office for less noble reasons.
The power dynamics start to come into play.
Right. Says and Sirs didn't mince words. They said, RTO is about showing us all who is really in charge.
Ouch. But there's truth to that, isn't there?
Definitely feels that way sometimes. And Kukucha pointed out that employers often have more power in the job market, so they kind of dictate the terms.
The balance isn't always equal.
Nope. And then there's From Nibley. They had this theory, maybe a bit cynical, but
I'm listening.
they think some companies are using RTO to get people to quit so they don't have to do layoffs.
Sneaky way to cut costs.
Right. Ties back to those financial pressures we talked about. But it totally erodes trust.
Big time. And speaking of fairness, Vin Lucero made a really important point about ableism in a lot of this RTO messaging.
What do you mean?
Well, this assumption that everyone can just commute and work in a traditional office, it ignores people with disabilities who might not be able to do that.
That's so true. We
Yeah.
need to consider everyone's needs.
Absolutely. And then the Puppet 33 really put things into perspective. They asked, how do all these RTO conversations sound to essential workers who never had the option to work from home in the first place?
Powerful question. It's a privilege to even have this debate.
For sure. It highlights the inequalities that exist in the workforce.
And it makes you think about how we can create a system that works for everyone, regardless of their job or situation.
That's the goal, isn't it? A fairer, more flexible future of work.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this whole discussion so important. We need to keep talking about these issues, challenging assumptions, and working towards a better future for everyone.
We couldn't agree more.
All right, we'll be back with more insights from this fascinating hacker news discussion after a quick break.
It really makes you think about what a good job even means anymore.
Right. It's not just about the paycheck, it's so much more than that.
Exactly. Flexibility, purpose, feeling good about what you do, all that matters now.
It's like, what's the point of making tons of money if you're miserable?
Exactly. And everyone's got their own priorities, right? Some folks are all about family time. Others want to climb the career ladder. Some want to make a difference in the world.
Different strokes, different folks, right?
Yeah.
Makes you think, though, if we really cared about getting the most out of people at work.
We'd let them work in the way that works best for them, right?
Totally. Some people love that busy office vibe, feeding off each other's energy.
Others need peace and quiet to focus. And both can be super productive.
It's true. So why are some companies so stuck on everyone being in the office?
I think it's a control thing, honestly. They're clinging to the old ways, even when the data shows remote or hybrid can be just as good, if not better.
Maybe they're scared of change, or they just sunk a ton of money into those fancy office buildings.
Could be. And let's not forget about hustle culture, that whole always be grinding mentality.
It's exhausting, always chasing that next promotion, never taking a break.
And for what? It all comes back to time, doesn't it? If we're always focused on the future, when do we actually get to live our lives?
We're missing out on time with family, hobbies, just relaxing.
We've forgotten how to chill.
It's sad, really. It's like work has become this all-consuming thing, and we've lost sight of what truly matters.
And that's why we need to ask those big questions like, why are we even working? Just to get rich or to build a life that feels meaningful?
That's a big one. And there's no right answer. It's different for everyone, right?
Absolutely. For some people, it's about making a difference. For others, it's about flexibility or pursuing their passions.
And that's cool. We should celebrate that, Let people define success on their own terms, not some outdated script.
I'm all for that.
Speaking of shaking things up, can we talk about technology for a sec? AI, automation, all that.
Oh yeah, technology is a game changer. Always has been.
It's crazy to think how AI will change jobs. Some will disappear, others will be totally
A
different.
little scary, all that uncertainty.
For sure. But it's also an opportunity, right? What if we use this to create better jobs? Jobs that focus on those human skills AI can't replicate.
Creativity, empathy, critical thinking, that kind of stuff.
I like that. We're at a crossroads. Cling to the old ways, or use this chance to build something better, something where work isn't just about making money, but about contributing to the world.
Love that. It takes a shift in mindset, though, doesn't it?
Totally. We have to be open to new ways of working, new ways of learning.
Lifelong learning is key. You can't just rely on that degree you got years ago. You got to keep evolving.
The skills we need are changing so fast, it's a challenge, but it also means we can always be learning new things, exploring new fields, reinventing ourselves.
That's exciting.
It is. It's about being curious, open to new experiences, not afraid to step outside your comfort zone.
Because the future belongs to those who adapt, right? Those who embrace the unknown. So, thinking about our listener, what's the big takeaway here in this ever-changing world of work?
Well, the one thing that's crystal clear is that there's no one right answer, no magic formula.
It's a personal journey.
Exactly. It's about figuring out what works best for you, your team, your company.
Having open conversations, experimenting, adapting.
And remembering that work is just one part of life.
Balance is key. Time for your passions, your loved ones, your well-being.
Couldn't agree more. Well, folks, this has been a deep dive into remote work versus return to office. We've covered a lot of ground.
From the practical to the philosophical and everything in between.
But now, let's get even more specific. We've got some amazing stories from those Hacker News comments that really bring this debate to life. Stick with us. We'll be right back. All right, so we've talked big picture, but let's get into some real-life examples from those Hacker News comments. Remember, typo human. They took that pay cut to stay remote.
Yeah, they really made a statement with that choice.
Well, they shared an update, and it's wild. So they were making almost 400 grand a year remotely in Florida.
Not bad.
Right. But their company went full RTO, wanted everyone back in the office.
Did they offer to relocate them?
They did. Said they'd cover the move to California.
So, golden handcuffs situation.
Basically, but Typo Humans said no, quit, and found a new fully remote job for a little over $200K.
Wow. Walked away from a ton of money.
They did, But for them, it was worth it. They talked about wanting more time with family, living where they want.
It really shows how people are redefining what a good job is. It's not just about the biggest paycheck anymore.
Totally. Quality of life matters. And then there's Spacey Willie. They actually ended up liking RTO.
Really? I thought they were dreading it.
They were, but they said the 3 days in the office worked out well. They kind of missed those face-to-face interactions.
Makes sense. Some people really thrive on that energy, that spontaneous collaboration.
Exactly. Spacey Willie said those quick chats, bouncing ideas off colleagues, it was super helpful for their creative process.
It shows how important company culture is, no matter where you're working.
If it's a good environment, people will feel connected, even remotely.
True. But you got to be intentional about it. Can't just assume it'll happen on its own.
Right. Managers need to step up, use the right tools, build that trust, give people freedom, don't micromanage.
Totally. So as we wrap this up, any final words of wisdom for our listeners navigating this crazy world of work?
I think the biggest lesson is there's no right answer. Remote, in-office, hybrid, it's about finding what fits you.
What works for your life, your team, your company?
Exactly. Be open to new ideas. Don't be afraid to experiment. And remember, work is just one part of life. Don't forget the other stuff that matters.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.